Everybody, welcome back to Something to Complain About. This is A. I'm here with T. We are getting ready to kick off episode 8. We're kind of excited. T, how you doing?
I am doing so well, A. So well. How are you?
I'm good. I am good. I had kind of a weird weekend last weekend. I thought that might be a fun kickoff for this conversation we're going to have. I saw a bunch of relatives, a whole bunch who were Gen Z, Gen Alpha. And I'm going to be real honest, I felt really old really fast because they were using phrases. I had to ask what they were talking about. Nothing makes you feel old, I think, faster than being like, what's lingo? Like, I mean, I know we all had our own lingo and we say like a lot, at least I do. But at the end of the day, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm texting my other cousin who is a few years older than me saying, what in the heck are they talking about? And she just texted me back and said, I don't know. Do you want some more vodka? The answer to that question is yes, because I don't know what's going on. So it was a fun weekend, but also I was a little lost. And then I realized I'm getting old.
So this ties in very well with after our conversation about whatever. And it really did make me kind of think about like some generational sayings and things. And as you know, I was meeting with little T recently, and she shared with me several months ago that her students who are Gen Alpha, and she's only 20, and she's 24, or did she turn 23? So in my
Wow.
eyes, she's still a puppy. But she was telling me like the kids are coming to school and they're using language she doesn't know. They're using slang she doesn't know. And she told me a few of the words, and it meant absolutely nothing to me, which is actually kind of scary. Think about it. And then
Yeah.
what's even scarier is that's already like there are two solid generations separating my generation from Gen Alpha. Yeah, yeah. There'd be like two solid generations there. It's interesting because I think language is one of those things that it does give us a way on for a lot of different things, right? Like social class, profession, age, location, all that. But I find myself, even though I'm almost 48, like I am using the same slang that I was using growing up and as a young adult. So it's kind of like frozen in time. And in my head, it's still cool.
Yeah.
But then I start thinking and I'm like, wait a minute, is cool still cool? Like, do the younger people, do they use the word cool? And does it mean what I think it means?
Oh.
Um, and then
They
I
seem to
start
understand
wondering,
what I mean when I say it. So I hope it's just, I think cool should just be a universal and never changes meaning kind of word, although that's probably wishing for too much.
or maybe they are fluent in, I believe the kids call it geezer speak.
Oh, for crying out loud. Right, because these are the same people who talk about the decades that we grew up in as the late 1900s, right? I mean, my grandmother was born in the early 1900s, and that felt
Yeah.
old. And now they're talking about us like we're our grandparents.
Well, here's the thing, A, just because it's true doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, right? Like the first time little T said something to me about, well, what you all did in the last century. And I mean, to me, the last century is still the 19th century.
Right.
Well, like, the 90s, that was like a few weeks ago or something. It wasn't that long.
Feels like it.
But this whole thing with like being cool, I then I'm like, I really get to worry. And again, I have another one of my pseudo existential crises where like little T is the hippest person I know. And I don't even know if people use the word hip anymore, but she's the hippest person I know. And if she no longer knows what the slang is, then, and she's not so cool anymore, then what does that make me?
The person drank out of the wrong grail on Indiana Jones, The Temple of Doom. Was it one of the Indiana Jones movies?
No, yeah, The Last Crusade.
The Last Crusade. That's
'Cause
right.
some Yeah, because someone chose the fancy golden bejeweled chalice, but Jesus was a carpenter, so the grail was actually wood.
Yeah. And not fancy.
We're not fancy. And apparently, like, carpenters weren't like union workers or anything like back in the in
From the first
big
century, which
and
was
that's
a few years before we were growing up, apparently. So,
which, when you think about it, not to derail this entire conversation, but do you want your carpenter to preach at you? You can either be a good savior or a good carpenter, right? I'm not seeing where those skills are transferable between the two jobs.
yeah, I don't think we ever find anything in the text that tells us that Jesus was a particularly good carpenter. We just know that's what his dad did. Or, I mean, his step, whatever, just he's a carpenter. So, Jesus as a child, like, did carpentry with Joseph. But we never hear about Jesus actually doing carpentry as a profession.
So, like a child labor apprentice is what he was. Okay.
Of course, yeah, that's how they did
So,
things.
which also leads me to think, remember that one time in college when we were sitting around and I think we were having lunch and I had just left theology class and I asked you if anybody had ever considered the thought that Moses might have been schizophrenic. And your reply wasn't that had I asked that question a couple of centuries earlier, I would have been burned at the stake.
That seems like something I would have said, yes.
It also sounds like something I would ask. But sometimes I think
It
about our
does.
conversation and I'm like, what if everything is like based on mental illness? But anyway, to go back, sorry, everybody.
Returning from the tangent, we're back to lingo with none of us. I mean, I think it's just really normal for us as we age. Everybody makes language their own, right? That's not unexpected. The hard part is and I'm sure millennials are starting to feel this. Apparently, little t is starting to feel this. It starts to evolve, for lack of a better word, so quickly that we end up feeling left behind, like really left behind. And initially, it's frustrating and scary. And then at some point, we just revert to, well, whatever. Off I go. Like, I don't care anymore.
Don't you think that's kind of the point? Like, I remember when I started teaching years ago, and the students would come in and they would be using slang and stuff that I didn't necessarily know. And I remember one of the other instructors going, by the time we figure it out, like by the time they let us know exactly what it means, it's no longer really being used anymore. And so isn't that kind of the point with this slang is like you want your parents or your teachers to kind of understand what you're saying, but they can't really. One of the things that I found very interesting in reviewing this page is when you look, we're we're always using like new words for the same kind of meanings or descriptors.
Yeah.
So, like in looking at this, the translator here is saying Gen Z uses the word valid the same way that we would say, and quite often still say, true that, both of which are basically informal ways of saying, yes, that is correct, or yes, that's true. So I found it very interesting that um, it's kind of the same words that were, or the same meanings and descriptors that we are recreating.
Yeah.
and making our own. And I guess that's something I never really caught on to before. So, and looking at this, what's one of the first things that popped out to you?
Well, I think it's kind of cool because and maybe just so our listeners know, there's an article that we're looking at here. It's from where's my sunny porch.com, which not a website I've never heard of before, but whatever. Where's my sunny porch.com? It's basically a Generation Z to Generation X kind of translator flowchart. So like, so that we can look at the words that Gen Z is using and try to understand them from the words that we would have used. And so when you said valid, my brain stopped. Like I was like, what the hell? What's that? I mean, but it makes sense, right? If we're saying true that, which I'll be honest, I didn't use that phrase very often. I would probably just say sure, but that's fine. But I definitely heard you that. The one that I hear a lot, oddly, is the very first one on this list. And it took me a while to be like, what the heck does that even mean? They would say bet, BET, right? Gen Z would
Mhm.
say bet. Well, according to this translator, we've said word, which I'm quite certain drove our parents and other people older than us nuts. Cause
Yeah.
it's just kind of, it stops the conversation, right? In some ways, like word, off I go. It's a little bit like what it can end
Right.
everything and off you go, right? It's sort of a validation of the conversation. But, you know, I could not, some things you can pick up, right? Some of the Gen Z slangs feel kind of like a natural evolution and you might just say them because they sound right. But that
Yeah.
in my head still sounds very odd. Like, I don't think I could do it.
Yeah. But some of these, what's odd is I'm finding I am actually adopting some of these phrases, like big man. Yeah.
Big man.
Mostly for big mad, mostly for my little chihuahua when she, texts you to tell her that she's big mad about something. And I think I use it because I think it's cute. It's just kind of a cute little thing, like, I'm big mad.
Well, it's also way more descriptive. It makes
Right.
sense. So the
Yeah.
Generation X translation, right? The word we may have used back then, this says is postal. And that requires context, doesn't it?
Right. It
Big
does.
Mad doesn't. You can get the meaning just from the phrase.
Mm.
But postal, you
Right.
have to understand where it comes from. So if you said
Mhm.
postal, like help me remember where postal came from for us. Do you
Oh,
remember?
going postal?
Yeah.
Because okay, remember years ago and the
Many
dark
long
ages,
years ago. Yeah.
many okay. And I'm reading this from my woven tapestry that tells the story.
With
Oh,
hieroglyphs.
I got the Rosetta Stone here. And I wanna say it had to have been May like maybe mid-90s or so. But that was when it came up, and I think it kinda started like the postal workers were always so overworked, like around the holiday season with shipping and mailing and all that. And for further context for any younger viewers, back then we sent everything through the mail. Not only did we not like have Amazon, but if you ordered from at that time catalogs, they were the mail service was used. People didn't go online, and then people sent Christmas cards and things like that. So the postal service, really, they would be swamped from what, say, Halloween to New Year's, and there were several incidents where very, very stressed out postal workers, um, went in and they, shot up their workplace.
Yeah.
And so going postal meant you basically were you're frustrated and you're lashing out. Um,
Uncontrollably angry
well,
at you and the people around you. Yeah.
yeah.
This was
Um,
before, like, I think also this was before the era of school shootings. Like,
yeah, there was. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
which is a
So,
horrible thing to have to use as a timestamp. But
I know. I know. But yeah, so it was a very big deal. And it also, not to wax poetic on this, but also about the time this word became popular was probably about the last time we had a really good economy. The people were really spending. The internet was in its infancy. Not too many people were using it, and you certainly weren't buying stuff off of it.
yeah,
And so, yeah, any orders from catalog that people use at the time, postal service, any gift, and gift cards weren't big. So if I wanted to send something to a family member in Florida, that wasn't just a Christmas card, it was a physical gift. When you think back, it's like, oh yeah, they were really overworked and swamped compared to now. I mean, there's 25 different ways I could send you a gift to your house, and none of them include the US Postal Service.
right. Yeah. Which I
You
think is
know?
like Big Bad is one that can transcend generations because I think it just makes
Right.
sense.
It
Postal is
does.
something that I'm not even sure millennials would recognize because you almost had to grow up in an era where you knew that that was what was happening. So
When
I kind of like Big Mad better. It's
I
cute.
was I just envision like a 3-year-old stomping their foot and saying they're big mad. I mean, I love it because it's like that's true emotion right there. I do want to say with Postal, um, I think there was some movement to not use that after all of the, school shootings and just the mass shootings and stuff became more prevalent. It seems like I kind of remember, like, people saying, "Let's not do that," because it's directly tied to shooting incident.
Yeah, that's fair. Big Mad is better.
So, um,
But
one that surprised me was no cap, because and the, equivalent, Gen X equivalent was for realsies, which I use, like, every day. But when I hear the word cap, my first thought is, I'm gonna bust a cap in
yes, mine too. Yeah, that's the first thing I think of. So that's hard for me to wrap my head around that one.
right. So, that
I
one,
need
I think, like,
I
if
need them to explain it. They
yeah,
don't explain it.
like, "Can you put this in a sentence for me?" Because if I would hear "no cap," my mind would automatically go there, and I'd be like, "Okay, what? No. What's, why are you
Hey,
even thinking of busting a cap?"
yeah.
Um,
The other one that pops up on here, which is funny to me, is high key, right? Like,
oh,
I have
yeah.
to stop and be like, you're gonna have to explain that. The translator person or the translator article says it means like literally, which I mean, we say literally a fair amount, but I don't know how high key wraps into that. So some of these make sense, some of them don't, and this one doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, this one doesn't. I mean, because I'm thinking like is just like, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we all use it. I mean, I remember preparing for job interviews and being trained in mock interviews to not use the word like because it would give me away as a Gen Xer and blah blah blah. And I still
Still,
it's a nice it's a nice filler word. Yeah. It's like
exactly.
it's like, I say a lot, but you should know. And I love literally because I want people to know that I'm being literal. Like I'm not
Right.
messing around. I'm being
Exactly.
literal.
So high key must just be like, pay attention. This is it. We're being real here. But they
But
would
they
laugh at us for
understand.
using those phrases too.
I think that would they understand if I was like, "I'm being real,"
Right.
or "I'm being real." They'd
When you're talking about the no cap one, right? I just noticed on this chart, they use cap for bogus. Bogus is
mm,
something we can continue to use, like we probably do. But that probably makes sense then because bogus is that's not true, that's false, that's crap.
right.
And then if you say no cap, I see the negative in there, but like
Oh,
that's too much work
wait
for
a
my
minute.
brain.
I think I think there's a typo. I think it should be crap and no crap. Because then that makes sense to me.
Well, no, that's
Crap.
us putting I don't know, but that's us putting our like Gen X experience on it. Maybe that's just not the way they do it. Who knows?
Because
I mean,
I can understand crap, no crap. Cap,
yes,
no cap. You may or
you're
may not be
okay.
listening to it all.
I pulled it up on the actual article, and you're not missing a letter. It is cap and no cap. So that's see, we're trying to juxtapose our experience into their slang. It's just not
Well,
funny. I mean,
crap is bogus, no crap is for realsy.
that would
That
make
makes more
sense, but
sense
they're
to me.
saying cap and no cap. So what I need them to explain to me is what does cap mean to them? Like, why are they using that as a way to say bogus, which is just our kind of way of saying that's not true. Like, that's crap. That doesn't make sense. Like, no. But why are they calling it cap? What's the, is it
Oh,
short
I
for
was thinking
something?
cat. Why? Yeah, it's short for crap. I
Well,
know
it's
that's the
obviously
reason. But they're gonna be like, "No, no, I think they purposely removed the R to confuse us."
probably that would make sense because we would have done that to the people older than us too.
Well, yeah. I mean, duh. Of course you would. But we would have thought of it first.
One of the other ones on here that I kind of think is funny is bussin.
Oh, no.
Bussin, bussin, which I'm sure you know, it's missing some letters, but we would have said bitchin', right? Like that, this is really cool. We really like this. What's the word I want to use here? It's a descriptor of, I don't, excitement's not the right word, but like we even use it excitedly, right? This
This
is close. And they're calling
right.
it busting, which is funny. Uh, Okay. The first time I heard, I was like, "You're bussing what? Are you bussing the table? Like, are you
Right.
bussing kids
Or,
somewhere?" It sounds
yeah,
strange to me.
that's
Bitchin'
where,
makes sense. It only makes sense because we grew up with it, I'm sure.
well, I think it's important to point out that this is the bitching without the G, because that other one does mean something different. But I was thinking the same thing with busting. I'm like, are you or like maybe like going somewhere, but first thing I was thinking was busing school children. Yeah. Or tables.
It's hard because your brain just sort of stops. You hear the word and you're like, "Doesn't make any sense in context. What am I missing?" It's
Yeah.
strange, which I'm guessing our parents and people older than us went through too. Um,
So what we're learning is that this really is an effective practice in getting your elders to shut the hell up. Because
Basic.
the brain is trying to process what you just said.
Yeah.
And the conversation continues. And I am forever going to be stuck on why is it cap and not crap? Like
I
somebody
need to
who
invite a Gen
like
Zer on to tell us.
I'm like, I need to read a thesis on there. And I need some good argument.
We need some etymology.
Yes.
What other one do you see on here that's interesting?
Oh, the I thought and I really like this because I think it is I mean, they're not exactly the same, but they're pretty the same. Preppy and bougie. And to me, it they're both kind of derogatory about the same they can both have those negative connotation. Like when I got my doctorate, one of my mentors was like, "Oh, now your dog is bougie." His mom having a dog. Well, I said in some way, it's kind of like I'm stepping on up, but there is again a bit of that disdain, distaste toward both bougie and preppy. I think. Gonna in another episode, I install your fashion 1998 fashion death by calling you preppy. That you
I
addressed
was.
preppy. So you were. It was it was those were horrible dark times. But you overcame them. Uh, but I found this one very fascinating, and I do use both, and I do like the term bougie. Again, I think some of these terms are cute.
I mean, it's funny because when I was in the Dakotas last weekend for the family thing, one of the Gen Zers, I had stopped to pick up a 12-pack of beer for my cousin, who was older than me by probably a decade. And he wanted this summer
Oh,
shandy
oh,
beer.
I remember stopping to pick up 12 packs of beer for cousins who were younger than me.
Yes. The crazy thing is, every cousin and their child at this particular event was old enough to buy their own beer. It just so happened that they were so far out in the country that they couldn't get the beer they wanted. And I was still in the city. So they were like, "Can you get me this beer?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll pick it up on my way out," right? Because it was an hour and a half to get to where they were. And then I delivered it to my cousin. I just handed him the 12-pack of beer, right? And his daughter, who is 33, she's lovely. I love her to death. But she looked at me and she said, "Well, that's some bougie beer." And what? Okay, sweetie, whatever. I mean, it's, I guess it would have been because it was like, it had some kind of lemonade flavor to it, which I thought was odd, but I don't really drink a lot of beer. So I didn't know. And I didn't expect him to like that kind of beer because he's very rustic. But she's like, "That's some bougie beer." Now I know what it means. I didn't know what it
You didn't
meant,
know what
but now I guess I have a better clue.
you didn't know what bougie meant? Like bourgeois?
No, but I didn't
That's
think
just
it was
when
derogatory as in preppy
yeah,
kind of was. I thought it was more
yeah,
like, "Oh, you got some
I
special beer that, people pay more money for." It's not Bud Light, right?
but I mean, isn't that kind of how preppy was though? I mean, it's kind of like in a certain way, it might be aspirational, but uh
To it.
there's some judgmentalism to it too, because it's a very specific kind of subset of that socioeconomic class,
Yeah.
where it's sort of like we all kind of want to be there, but we're never going to be there. So we're going to kind of hate on them. Didn't Nietzsche call it like a resentment or something like that?
Yeah. Me
Like a
too.
little bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind
And
of like,
if
that.
she would have said that's some preppy beer, I would have understood the judgmental part of it. But she
Right.
called it bougie, and I was just kind of like, okay. Now I know she's making fun of us.
Well, but at the same time, like, um, I've been called bougie a few times. And again, I find it funny because I've worked very hard to even approach near bougie. So it is kind of like a badge of honor. But I know, but I understand the undertones of it as well, because I understood that the potentially negative connotation is there. But it's sort of like, you know what? I've worked hard for this, so I'm going to be bougie. And to me, bougie is more, I don't know. To me, preppy seems a little bit more specific. Bougie is a little more broad, and maybe I'm not thinking the right way, but I would never be preppy, but I can be bougie. My attitude can be very bougie.
Yeah, that's fair. The other one that
Mhm.
pops up on here that is weird to me, that would
Mhm.
completely, confuse me, is their use of I'm sleeping on it, right? We would say I'm sleeping on it, and we would mean like I'm going to go home and think about it or something. But
Uh-huh.
when they say it, they mean they're checked out. Because to us, checked out means checked out, right? We're not listening anymore.
Right.
We're done. We're over it. To them, I'm sleeping on it means the same thing. But I would completely misinterpret that if I was in a conversation with a Gen Zer. Like I'd be stuck. I'd be stuck on it like you're stuck on the cat crap.
Yeah. I wonder if that sleeping on it is tied back to putting your computer to sleep because it's not really doing anything. That'd be interesting to know a bit more of the history. But I'm like, yeah, I would miss it. I would miss that because I would think, oh, they're just thinking about it. They'll get back, to me in a couple of days. But the Gen Z use of flat to our rock, that makes sense to me because it's even
I
more
like that
pro.
one.
Yeah, I do too. I really
Um,
engage some of these.
I like this other one too. This one where the big yikes, kind of like your big, we would say no way. They would say big yikes. I'm good with that. I think that's a better, because let's be real, big yikes actually sounds more pejorative to me. Like,
Yeah.
it's more like we would say no ways, and we don't really believe that. But they would say when I hear big yikes, it sounds more like you're crazy. Like that doesn't make any sense, right? Like not possible.
I I think it sounds more like like, oh hell no,
Yes.
almost kind of.
Have
And
you
I
lost your
do
mind?
exactly. I really do like I got tea, or like you'll hear people say like, "Who has the tea?" or "I
Yeah.
had some tea," and I love that because it's I hear it a lot for like gossip,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I really I like that.
I'm looking at this other one here, this simp versus dweeb.
Yeah,
I really have always hated that word dweeb. Like it just
yeah, I
seems
have chair.
simp is actually funnier to me. I think it's probably just as cutting, but dweeb
Yeah,
sounds dumb. Simp
yeah,
sounds slightly more intelligent than what our generation came up with. So I think we should let them have that one.
yeah. No, that's good. Fire fit. I I don't know.
so,
Compared to our version of sweet digs, fire fit.
so what's digs? Remind me, because like sweet digs,
Like
I would have thought that was like
like
your
your house.
place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's your house. Like you got
But
some
I thought
sweet
fire
digs.
fits, because when I hear them say fits, I that always to me sounds like it's truncated from outfits. Like the clothes you're wearing are on fire, right? They're great. They're fantastic, whatever we like them. But sweet dig sounds like it to us is always more about like where you are, not what you're wearing.
Yeah.
So like this one is confusing to me. Like I like fire fits as a word. It's interesting or as a phrase, but like I would need some context to understand how you got from one to the other from a translation perspective. And maybe we're just
And
overthinking all of it, but that's what we do.
we might be that, and that's exactly what we do.
I mean, beyond this, and this isn't in an actual article, but like I think I mentioned this a while back. I've got a couple people that I work with who are definitely Gen Z, and one of them will respond to me with the word heard, heard, heard. And the first couple times I just let it slide. And then afterwards I was like, why are you saying that? And it's basically the same thing as she's basically just acknowledging that she understood what I said. She's like, we would have said gotcha, right? Or got you, or whatever. It's something like got it.
So like I heard you is basically what they're saying. Okay.
Really? Yeah, that's how she explained it to me. And I was like, okay, so you're too lazy to say the whole sentence. That's fine. That's what we do with slang. But it took me a while. And if I wouldn't have asked, I would have just been like, whatever, she's using those funny young people words again. I don't know what they're talking about. But it's doable. I can't make myself use it. Like I use it with her from time to time just because it's her and she's super funny and helpful, but I don't use it with anybody else. And it's not just because most of the other people I know are Gen X or boomers and they would be like, what on earth? What? Excuse me? But also because it doesn't feel natural to me. It's easier for me to be like, gotcha, or got it, or understand. Uh,
Yeah.
they're just like, heard. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes I, okay, Stan for stalker, I got, because I've heard that. Some of these I've heard quite a bit more.
Yeah.
Snack for Hottie, I think that one's kind of cute too. I
Yeah.
was saying he's
I like
just
that one. In fact, I like that one better than Hottie.
I'm wondering, do you think I could become a cougar, or do students, do kids still use the word cougar? If I would say, oh, he's a snack. And am I in cougar country then?
Yeah.
Okay.
You
Action
can enjoy cougar country if you can.
Uh,
It's exhausting and difficult.
it sure does. Oh man.
I see on here stay Slayin as in be excellent. And for whatever reason, and this may not have anything to do with these phrases, but you are going to laugh when I say it out loud. When I see be excellent, I am immediately taken back to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure for whatever reason.
Yes, thank you. Yes, because I think that's in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but um that was the first place my mind went to as well. And actually I like Stay Slayin better.
I did.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually more slangy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think they've got some good fun. Fam instead of homeboy. I kind of like it. It's
Yeah.
shorter. It's also more inclusive, right? Like it's
Yeah.
anybody instead of homeboy, pin girl, whatever you want to say. You can just say fam and it includes anybody. Now,
Yeah.
I love that for you versus Generation X saying right on. When I hear I love that for you, I think you also have to keep in mind it may have tonal implication
Thank
because
you.
it can be, I love that for you, as in right on, that's awesome, that's great. Or it can be, I love that for you, as in the way our Southern friends would say, bless your heart.
Right.
Yeah.
And this one I found very interesting as well, because I have actually used that, or I would say I love that for, and then say the name. But when I say it, it's it is, oh, usually in reference to someone getting their comeuppance.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, "Oh, I love that for her."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all about, I think it's very situational, but I
Yeah.
think that flexibility is what makes it better slang.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
I
That's
mean,
true.
I'm
'Cause I just
sorry to
use
our Gen X listeners. Gen Z has outdone us with some of these.
they have. These are nice, and I'm actually using some of them,
Yeah.
and I'm
Which
not
is
even
funny because when we,
mad about it.
right, when we start using them, you have to wonder what it makes them think, right?
Well,
When they
okay,
hear us use them, does it start making the phrasing less cool?
yes. And that's
That's
like an
cool. We should
automatic,
do it more often
right?
then.
Okay. It's just like I remember one time, oh, I don't know, maybe I was like junior high at the oldest, but it was like Christmas and my family was all together and all of these kids were going nuts. And one of my aunts came into the room and she goes, "Still." And of course, we all know what that means. But you know what? So did Aunt Dorothy. So all of a sudden, still not so cool anymore. Not so cool when your 40-year-old Aunt Robinson and uses it on your 12-year-old son. Yeah, like, so it honestly is. I think by the time like this has been published and somebody else online. And by the time we sit here and go, oh, we like this word, or we hear it, or, we've used this, and it's like, yeah, then it's no longer cool. They're on to like the next best thing.
Right.
But I mean, isn't that language as a whole, though, as just, I'm always amazed because it's this living, dynamic thing that's always changing,
Yeah.
adapting, and yeah. But
Well,
sometimes then, especially, oh, go ahead.
I mean, it's idiomatic, right? Which I think is the challenge. And I know, I mean, you took some language. Um,
Mhm.
this is the biggest challenge when we study language. And I know when I did my undergraduate degree, I took Greek, right? Ancient Greek. I took some of those ancient dead languages. And this was the kind of stuff that we struggled with the most because it's really, really difficult to understand 2,000, 3,000 year old idioms, right? When we're creating our own and they're dynamic, they're living, they change generationally
Well,
sometimes.
and two, this brings up a good reason why when we study language, we also study their culture,
Yes.
because there are some some things that like oh, I know a lot of slang in Spanish, and I know some real zingers in Spanish, but to translate them literally to English, it would make no sense. And there's some
Right.
things in English that we say that if you're taking it literally, then it loses all on meaning.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think this is kind of cool, and I see a benefit in getting older in that because I'm no longer responsible for creating new language. I am just appropriating the language that I choose to appropriate from the youngins. They're doing all the work.
Yeah. Let them. We did the work already. We did our own work as a
Right.
generation.
This is this is our generation's equivalent of Social Security. Like this is it. This is it, baby. We get free word.
Yeah. It was kind of fun.
It's like, I mean, I'll take this over the measly $1,200 a month that they're supposedly promising to me. Like, let the kids just generate new words for me to judge and adopt and start using, and then it's not cool anymore, so they have to make new words. And yeah, this is
It's the
great.
generational tug of war, right? We were on the other side of the knot for a long time, and now it's our turn to switch sides. And now we're the ones appropriating the language to look cool or to enjoy it. And
Uh-huh.
then they're
Right.
like, these Gen Xers are crazy. We should not be dealing with
Yeah.
them.
Oh, but I mean, some of these are just like very clever,
They are.
and I and I love it. And some of them I find that I already have adopted,
Yeah.
and really, when you think about my little Mia, I mean, big mad, that's the essence of Mia, right?
Right.
My little
Even though she's
Mia,
4 pounds.
yeah, she's 7. Um, but yeah, it's like, she gets big mad. That's her emotion. That is what it is.
I mean, this is cool. This is a
Mm.
fun conversation because it's
Yeah,
it's generationally consistent in its
yeah,
inconsistency, right? Like we are
yeah.
consistently having this dynamic in evolution of language and how we talk to each other and communicate and understand each other. And this is normal. It's exactly how it's supposed to work. It's weirder for us because as we acknowledge the dynamism, we're acknowledging our age, right?
Yeah.
We are you have to wonder if our parents and our aunts and uncles had these conversations about us. Like, what the hell are those kids talking about? And sure they did. Right.
Oh,
And I'm
insane.
sure they also just rolled their eyes because our parents had words that their parents didn't understand. And this is just normal. Um,
Yeah.
but it's kind of fun to talk about it. So I'm kind of curious, at least for our listeners, then, like, which Gen Z, Gen X phrasing are you familiar with? Are there ones we're not aware of that you want to share with us? We would love to hear some more. So definitely add your thoughts in the comments. Of course, always remember to be civil, share with your friends, like and subscribe. It has been fantastic and fun, but T, I think we are at the end of this fun conversation for today. You have anything else you want to say?
No, I am good. I think this was fun. This was a fun one. And I learned some new words. I'm gonna go practice them on some youngins and see
Well,
my
for our
language.
listeners, let us know what you think. T, it's been real. That's certainly our own idiom. And
Oh
just to be
wait.
funny about it, stay slaying, and I'll see
Oh,
you again next time.
it was bitchin'. Everybody be good.
Bussin'.
I love that for all of you.
Me too. All right. We will see
Bye.
you all next time. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody.
I really like the stay slaying. I don't know why.
Me too. It's just got kind of that adventure, uh, like slaying dragons. I am so proud of you that you know about Rage Against the Machine, and I did not have to teach you that. I'm very impressed.